the studs are for the crankshaft, for the cylinder. Sorry, I'll put my bloody brain in gear in a minute. They're at an angle. That's what I say. They rotated the actual cylinder around. On a PX, that's straight. So the stub axle for the exhaust is straight down. That's why you can't change exhaust between a P200 and a P125 and a 150 even. and even a PX80, they use a straight down cylinder. And I mean the barrel's just oily, it cleans up like new, nice and shiny. So what we'd need to do to get this barrel off now is to undo the exhaust. You see where a bit of petrol's gone on the exhaust. We'd have to undo the exhaust. We can actually take the exhaust off and take some studs out, and it should slide. Sometimes they slide out without the studs out. It depends, I think, where the rear suspension and your bolts are, basically, as to where the engine's sitting in the frame. If you've got a slightly skew with frame, it could be that the cylinder will catch here. Sometimes they come out and sometimes they don't. You can undo the 4 studs quite easily and take it out. I don't know whether we're going to be building the engine completely up. I'll have to decide yet, and sticking it back in as one unit, or we're going to do a reversal of what we're doing now, which is just build it 2 halves, clutch in, and then put the engine in, the back wheel on, because I haven't taken the back wheel off yet. So we need to now undo these, and what I've done, I don't know if you can see that on the exhaust, is I've double nutted it. Let's try and take you down a little bit more. On the exhaust itself, the stub axle, it's got I've got 2 nuts and washers on it. That's just me. I don't like them leaking. As you can see, there's no leak on the outside of that. The stub axle itself screws into the cylinder. Once they're rusted in, they're nigh on impossible to get out without heat, and extreme heat at that. But yeah, we're just going to double nut up, and we'll take our studs out. I can't remember if I Loctited these in or not. I normally do. So we got, that's in 11. I'm on a 13mm spanner. I just need to change that to tighten up. Right. It might come out. No. I'm going to have to just loosen it. I must have put some nylock on it, some thread lock. So I'll just use the spanner, and it's coming out. In fact, there's seal at the bottom as well. These engines amaze me because the ports are not very big on them, and yet they, you know, they go well. And like I said, when we take this apart, you'll see how good the casings are for this engine. Prior to me owning it, a guy bought it from the original owner with a view to selling it on, and lucky enough I was although I'm the 3rd owner, I'm actually the 2nd owner. He registered it in his name, and he had grandiose plans to do it up, and got there before he could, you know, tune it, etc., and ruin a good engine. And we can now hopefully start just to undo that as one. There we go. You can buy fancy stud extractors, but this method's proven, and it's worked over the centuries that we've been building scooters. Yeah, right on cue. I said to the missus, give me a shout at 7:30. That should be long enough. That it did have. I don't know if you can actually see that. Got thread lock on it. So all we need to do now is take our nuts off and put them on another thread. Before I go anywhere, I've noticed that the oil is leaking past the screw, so I'm going to just tighten that in, screw it in a bit more, or I'll have no oil left. And I'll give that a wipe, and here a wipe, because that'll give me an indication if I've still got a leak or not. It's only 2-stroke oil, so it won't do any damage. So right, we've got one out. I'm going to take this one out now. Again, crisscross. Brilliant group. And we can tighten them up again. Yeah, and put them cables out of the way. And tighten one against the other. Nice and tight, and then use our spanner to start it off. When it starts getting a bit looser like that, you can put your socket on both nuts, by the way, not just the top one, and it should come undone. There you go. What I'm going to do next is I'm just going to take the exhaust off. In actual fact, I might even, if I can knock the exhaust down, leave the exhaust on for tonight, because I'll have to get on the floor and show you on that again. So that's number 2 stud out. It's in good nick. So again, get your spanner on, take them off again. That's it. I'm not going to take all 4 off until I get the exhaust off. That's on far enough. I have to keep checking the camera because I don't know what you can actually see and what you can't see. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start that last one off. So change that to tighten up. That's it. And then we'll get our spanner on there again. And like I say, just do this till you feel it go like that's just started to go easy now. You can put your socket on there on undo. And take your stud out. And then what we do is push the piston back in all the way. So we only have to pull the cylinder out to clear the crankcase. The exhaust won't drop until I undo there's a bolt that holds it in place in the middle, 17mm, which you should take your wheel off, but we only need to knock it clear. That's still quite tight, believe it or not. And there we go, turn that by hand again. So when you're rebuilding these, if you've got a tap and die set, just go over the threads again, clean them up, and likewise with the crankcase, clear all the rubbish out. If you haven't, you can't do anything about that, but you know, I like to do things as nice as I can get them. So right, so this one off, that's it. And then like I say, all I'm doing is just loosening that. I'm not taking it out at the moment, because I think to the next video tomorrow night we'll take the cylinder off That seems to be tight on there for some reason, and I don't know why. That's it. And then we'll use our spanner. I'm only doing it till it starts getting loose. There we go, 1, about 4 or 5 cables out the way. This is probably about as long a video as most people want to watch. So that's just starting to come loose now, see that? So I'm going to leave that on there, and we'll put our socket on the bottom one. Undo them. In fact, 1 at a time, not 2. That's it. Again, stainless steel, and the writing to yourself. I can't help it, but I think it's good engineering to do that. And then we've got our original, which is starting to come undone now. We don't need to undo that fully. Screwdriver. Right, so I've undone, not taken off because the wheel's in the way, I'll show you that anyway. Undone the main bolt that holds the exhaust on. We know we've undone them, and I've just tapped that down with a wooden mallet. So now our we are free when I take off this. Where's my 13mm spanner? There. When we take off this one, our cylinder head will come off now. I did get asked how to do this, hence doing it. So it's all the studs off, your exhaust out the way, your cylinder head off. You don't even need to take the carb off if you don't want to. It will get to a point in a minute where it'll just come loose. Bring that up a bit. You can see what I'm doing. I'm just taking the last stud out, and then we're going to slide the cylinder forward to the front of the scooter. This did have a seize when I first built the engine. Got a bit frisky with it when I was running it in, and it just had a bit of a nip up. So we'll see if we can see that in the barrel. Right, so that's loose enough now to turn by my hands. Last one out. And then in this case I'm just going to get this rag and slide that off. Here we go. And it's actually pistons stuck on it, so pull that piston back in. A bit more. Come on, piston. Right, our cylinder should come off now from the piston. You know what, it's the cables are holding it. Maybe it had a bit more of a seizure than I gave it credit for. The only thing holding it on is the rings, believe it or not. There we go. And that's the base gasket, metal one.